Aloha Aina. Happy sacred Sabbath. Today is Sunday, October the 6th, at 35% at 10:36, which is 3636 with 10, which is 99 with a 0. And I'm hanging out at home today, just taking some time to relax and do some self-care stuff. And I'm going to be painting around my spot today. And um, having some yummy, fresh coconut water. This is one of the things I love so much about living on a tropical island, is that there are coconuts all around to drink fresh coconut water. It's so great. Life's mana. Water is life. The other thing too is my friend Sam let me borrow this book recently, Sex and Quantum Physics. So I've been reading little passages out of the book, and I want to read just this little bit to you. And it says, so this is cool, it's showing the body and energy. And it says, remember that the body is an evolving wave of pattern of information and energy. This is not just an image, it is our latest understanding of what we are. We absorb energy into our wave patterns from everything we encounter, all the energy that flows around us. When we absorb this energy / information, we incorporate it into our evolving pattern, the way a child absorbs language and uses it to communicate. If we are unaware of our own patterns, the energy finds whatever channel we already are. The energy is absorbed by the channel and reinforces the channel. Day-to-day living is a good example. Much of our life is about doing the same things every day. That's why we go on vacation. The daily things we do run through the same channels over and over. Like water and time, they carve the channels deeper. So deep that we cannot imagine being without them. Whether our channels are subtle or deep carved, large amounts of energy can create turbulence in them. I just thought that was cool. This is about our energy and the way it comes in and out of the body, and with the web that we're in and with other people. It's pretty cool. So I was just reading a little bit of that and thought I would share that, because it's like when we think about thought patterns in our day-to-day life and our bodies, we can get more in tune with what's going on in our spectrum a little bit. And a huge role, a huge thing that plays a thing that plays a huge role in our life and in our energy is our authenticity. And one of the things that I have learned about myself is I have definitely been a truth speaker most of my life. And I have not always been received for communicating that truth. And I realized that I haven't always, I haven't spoken that my authenticity properly in my life. And that's part of the reason why I wasn't received. And so one thing that I know about speaking truth is that not everyone is open to receive it. And so, like, it's kind of interesting how we can be around people and they love our lights and they love the love we share and our smile and our energy and all of that stuff. Yet when it comes down to actually speaking truth about the things that can cause discomfort, well, then that's when things can shift. And then all of a sudden, that loving light that was so bright and, beautiful, then becomes something else. And it's interesting how the human psyche will turn it around and point the finger at the person speaking the truth. And that can be very energetically painful. And the thing to remember is that when we notice that someone is doing that, that's a huge sign right there to pause to see how to redirect the energy flow, the communication. Because if you're speaking your truth to someone and it triggers them and you see that their energy changes and they start throwing energy at you and it becomes distorted, that's when I'm learning to slow down so that I can pause and see how to redirect the communication. Because when someone has a trigger in their consciousness and they're not like dialed into taking like visual ownership of their energy or their actions, that's when it can, the snake, turns its head and it becomes this other creature versus continuing to be authentic. And I have been told so many things in my life. I've been told that, I'm too much. That's a big one. I've been told that I'm too much in my life. And I use all of that reflection as a way to look at myself, to see if I am being too much with my energy or if my energy is out of alignment in a way that doesn't feel comfortable to me. But other than that, I realize that like speaking truth is important, even if it's not received, even if someone says you're too much or you're crazy or you don't know what you're talking about. Because what I've come to realize, I think that a word that is used in the human language is called like a narcissist. That's one of the terms that can be used for people that are doing this like subconscious fear-based manipulation around consciousness. I really feel like for the most part, the majority of humans don't mean to do this. They don't want to do this. I know there's been times in my life where I've aligned into the definition of that term also. And so I realize when I see someone, use the mastery of the mind in a way that is bypassing, some people call it spiritual bypassing. I call it, a lack of conscious awareness, but it is conscious bypassing. I feel like it's done in a subconscious, unconscious way because it just doesn't match up. Like it doesn't match up to a vibration that feels balanced. It feels distorted, right? So that's an inclination to pause and take a look. If someone all of a sudden turns around what you're saying on you, well, that's your first clue. It doesn't mean that it's personal or that there's a physical attack or an emotional attack against you. We have to get outside of the roles of the victim. Oh, I said something to this person and now this person doesn't like me, or they started yelling at me. And it's like, well, whoa, whoa, whoa. They're not really doing that to you. They're doing it to themselves because they don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to be open to receive what someone is telling them. And that's okay because I feel like the majority of us aren't really open to that for a long time in our lives, if ever. So thankfully, we're having these conversations now. And I'm someone where I haven't always been in this light, but I welcome someone to be able to be confident enough in themselves to be able to have a conversation with me about something that I may be doing that makes them uncomfortable, even if I'm not really doing it, right? Because it's like, I look at life as a two-way mirror, a mirror to see someone else and a mirror to see myself in every single situation. And when I step outside of the victim mentality of, oh, this person is attacking me, or, oh, this person is trying to do this to me, or, oh, this person doesn't see me. Well, it's like, okay, we can really step outside of taking everything so personally, because when someone doesn't see us, for who we are, we can look at things in a couple of different ways. We can take that opportunity to explain to them who we are or what we're trying to say, or not say anything at all. Like sometimes I feel like it's not worth doing the dance with some people's minds. I just don't have the energy for it. And at the end of the day, unless I really feel it within my heart and in my solar plexus that I should communicate with this person, I don't really care. I let it go because it's like, we're really not battling the person. We're really just like looking at someone's programming. The programming is the tool that is shown to us on the outside. we really only show people about 10% of what we have going on the inside. So if you see someone that's like really in a, it just seems like they're a mess, they have just so much going on and it's like really heavy. Well, that person has like 90% of more of that going on the inside. And in all spectrums of emotional consciousness, not just the bad stuff, So if you see someone who's really happy all the time, they probably have a lot more yummy energy in there. So it's how we react to each other. And the other thing is too, is because we do ride such an emotional wave, how we may be in 1 minute or how they may be in 1 minute may not be who we or they are in the next hour or two. Like we shift so fast. And so when we speak truth, when we are authentic with ourselves and with other people, it's important to remember going into that we may not be received, and that's okay. Because I've come to realize, like, I spent a lot of my life battling with other people because they didn't see themselves and they weren't able to fully embrace me. And I spent so much time arguing and battling and getting angry and all of those things. And I've stepped way outside of that spectrum now versus like, being so enthralled in what other people have going on in their psyche and their reflection of me to their psyche. I mean, that's the biggest thing. All we can do, like, is be the best of who we are in the moment and continue to learn from the things that we do and communicate that. I find if I'm communicating with people and letting them know, like the people that are closest to me, my flow and how I'm feeling, then they can understand me more. And if they can't, that's okay. Then maybe we're not meant to understand each other at this current, place and time, if ever. And we don't have to get so caught up in the program of what other people say, or to have this expectation that someone else is going to be able to embrace or embody who it is we are and what we're trying to say. One of the most hurtful things that can happen is when someone that loves us or they say they love us and we love them is not open to receive our truth or their truth. Like we can even see someone's truth and share it with them and they're not ready to receive it. And then all of a sudden now you're the crazy one. It happens. And it's like this automatic thing that just happens. And it's literally like the whole like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where it's like 1 second you're talking to someone and then you bring something up about the way their energy makes you feel, or that's something that they've done, or just how you're feeling about the weather. And then all of a sudden this triggering can happen. And it's like, whoa, where did that come from? And it's because that emotional wounded body's been pressed. And a lot of the time we come along to trigger other people. We're here, it seems like we're here to trigger each other in these emotional bodies so that we can like move past it. And it gets easier. Like we stop feeling so much pressure in the emotional wounds when we realize the wounds are just programming of the past and it's a story, then we can clear that energy out so it's not affecting the body, the vessel, and the chemical responses aren't happening with the neurotransmitters in such a way, and our DNA can become more vibrant and more regenerative. I mean, speaking truth isn't always easy, but it sure is greener on the other side. I can tell you that. And I find that it gets even greener in the way it's communicated. And learning when to have discernment of who to talk to and when not to talk to people. I mean, we're so sensitive as humans. I mean, so sensitive. And we really, really, really hold on to and lock into the stories that we tell ourselves and other people of the past that are dictating our future now, when we can like clear all that stuff out and create a new script. The greatest thing for me is like, I don't focus on anything until something comes into my alignment to focus on. It's like cleared up my consciousness so much. So when my emotional triggers come up, or I see someone else who's getting triggered by maybe some emotion, not that something that I've done, but I see someone going through something that I've been through or that I'm going through, and I'm like, wow, like it's really amazing how we can move so easily out of the storytelling that causes us so much physical pain and keeps us locked into this spiraling box that is the mind. Because the thing is that this is going to be ongoing in here. It doesn't turn off. It just keeps moving, and we're a witness. We are witnessing what's going on in here. And so if the programming that you're listening to in here isn't feeding your soul, then it's time to feed it something else. I mean, we can reprogram. I am proof that programming takes place with success. I feel as though I am. I like where I'm at in my mind and how I'm processing emotional intelligence. And so there is something to it, at least in my spectrum of consciousness. So it's like if we can share these things with each other to realize that the emotional energy that we receive from other people does not have to be our own. Like, bro, we take on the stories of other people every day, and they're influencing our lives. And the thing is that it is creating our own emotional intelligence. When we can observe, right? Be the magician, observe what's going on in the outer ether, and allow the programming to come in and take place. I feel like that we shift the programming constantly, depending on how dialed in we are to our own consciousness. Like, how much of the people around you are feeding your own emotional intelligence, or how much are you feeding theirs? Like, it's this interesting shift in consciousness that takes place with influence, because we are influencing each other. Every sign you read driving down the road, every commercial that you listen to on your radio, every post, every ad you see on social media, every video that you listen to on YouTube, every article that you read in a book or in a newspaper or on your phone, all of that is influencing you, your consciousness, to make choices of what you're going to agree to embody into your DNA, into your story. So it's like when we get dialed in to realize that that's taking place, that's when the mastery comes in, because we're like, whoa, you mean I get to make a choice? I get to shift the choice of my programming, of my own emotional intelligence, not based on what someone else says, but the choice to embody what someone else says. That's when we become the shapeshifter and the way shower. Because it's like we get to realize that, we're being so influenced by the cosmic weather and the galactic ascension that's going on. We have a little bit of control, and that is a choice of choice, a decision of the choice. Because it's like there are these moments when things come into our pathway, and it's like there's a moment of pause in the ether, just like very briefly, where we get to choose which path to go down. Or at least we like to think we get to choose. I'm not really sure any of it's a choice. And so it's like, that's why I like to flow to the path of what feels good versus thinking or focusing on so much. Like I said a little bit earlier in the videos, I don't focus on very much. I observe and then make choices, or then listen to what feels good for myself, feel what feels good. The solar plexus is the internal compass. It's the element of fire, which is so powerful. And when we go by our solar plexus and the excitement that we feel, that's how we get tuned into the feeling of something. Like if you want to talk to someone in your life about something that's really important, but you feel fear to do it, yet in your heart it's the right thing to do, then that's a moment to pause, to think about how to communicate that. Unless you're in the rhythm of already being aligned in your communication, then it's good. Each flow has its own rhythm. We can't really put ourselves into boxes of expectations, or I'm going to do this like this because that person did it and it worked for them, or whatever. Like, we can stay way outside of the box of, this is I like to look at it this way, like how I feel is how I feel right now in the moment. It doesn't mean I'm going to feel that way 5 minutes from now. So I like all these ideas and I like to speak them out loud to see how it feels. Yet I find a lot of time when I'm thinking about my life or the future or what I want, it's like I'll speak it and then I'll automatically go, wait, wait, wait. I got to stand outside of that box because I'm locking myself into this energy of what I want, when really it's an idea of what I want. Because what I want, I don't know. I don't know what I want until it shows up. I was talking to my friend the other day about dating, and he mentioned that he likes, a certain body type, and or he likes this or he likes that. And something that I've been thinking about lately is like, if we have a type, if we have a type that we like or want to date, that is in some way putting ourselves into a box, a framework of thinking that creates a subconscious flow of expectation that can take us out of the full realm of manifesting. And that comes in all kinds of ways. Like, say there's a job that you want, right? And you have this idea of what the job looks like. So you start speaking, the details of this job out loud to manifest it. And that's great. But yet at the same time, I feel like it's nice to have an idea, but to leave the window open. Don't shut the window. Don't shut the door. Have an idea of what it can look like and feel like, but leave the door open for the universe to bring it in. And that's how we manifest. It's like having an idea of what we want, writing down these details, and then realizing and trusting that the universe is actually going to align us in the multidimensional space of what it is we actually want. And speaking truth is something that gets us there. Even if someone else says you're crazy, even if someone else tells you that you don't know what you're talking about, all of that stuff is someone else's perception, even your own perception. Because while you think you want something right now, you may not want that same thing 5 minutes from now. So that's why I like staying way outside of the box and just thinking, okay, let's have fun with this. Let's throw some ideas into the mind space so that, we can let the ether have its magic wand and play with it. Because one of the things I realized too is that while in the moment with people, when you're speaking your truth, it can come off as it can display as an argument. It can display as anger. It can display as peace and loving. Yet 5 hours from that moment, it can totally change the vibration, because we get triggered in the moment. And some people, I mean, myself included, have worked on my mastery of this reaction versus responding. Reactionary responses usually show an indication of a lack of self-awareness within inside, or like there's a trigger of a vibration that's causing a chemical response, which triggers the thought processes, which can cause an outburst of reaction. That later on, that person can go and like have like this meditation and like think about what it is that was said, and can have like different movements about it later. Like, for instance, I've noticed that a lot of people I've dated, they may not like me so much in the end, but then like a month or 6 months later, we become friends again, because they realize, well, I may have not have communicated properly. I wasn't speaking to them in pain or in anger. I was speaking to them in love about what I was seeing. So it's like we come back around full circle sometimes to get to really see what someone else says. So expecting someone to accept our authenticity in the moment sets us up for failure also. It can, because we just never know how someone's going to respond. A lot of the time we already know, but it's later on. So having this expectation of the now while being in the now is just like this interesting ride we're on in this human experience. And so in relationships too, it's like, how mindful are we about the way that we're communicating? How mindful are we? How dialed into our own self-love are we so that we can communicate properly to each other? Like, if two people are dating and they're communicating at each other, but really they're just pointing blame and telling the other person what they're doing to them versus talking about how they feel and being open to receive. Well, that's a sign of distorted ley lines. If two people can't come together calmly and have a discussion about the way that they're feeling versus the way that each other's making them feel, I mean, it's like, how much are we blaming each other? How much responsibility are we taking for our own actions? Because, we can be all spiritually conscious and doing all of this, but at the end of the day, it's like, how conscious are we really? Because consciousness is so infinite and vast, and we really don't know that much. And so when we realize we really don't know that much, like that means our own emotional state. Like, I know how I feel right now, but I know I'm not going to feel that way again later. It's going to shift. Yes, I had these like foundational roots to myself, but man, it changes so much. So it's like, being a human is really trippy. I know that I am a multidimensional galactic being that has incarnated into this lifetime. That's why I see humanity as a really interesting, like, experiment that's taking place here, and my emotional intelligence is far beyond it. So that's why even in my own mind, I'm like, wow, aren't I beyond this, like, emotional humanistic programming? And so I have these like interesting dialogues between the programming in my mind and my higher self, because it's not the same. My emotional intelligence of my avatar is pulling me to a line. That's the twin flame union, is the union of the egoic self in alignment with its conscious self, the higher self, to be able to shift that so that there can be more peace. I've been having a lot of conversations lately about anger. And it seems as though a lot of humans feel like anger is healthy. And I understand that. I've heard this a lot in my life. They think that anger is a healthy emotion. And so anger is a part of the lack of authenticity. Because, and someone used this example with me that, we need anger because, like, if we're being threatened or we have to get defensive to defend ourselves, or we need anger. And it's like, no. Like, anger is something different, because there are animals in the wild that are primal, that follow their own natural instinct, right? It's like say there's like a pack of animals and they're like cruising through the jungle, and everybody's like sniffing around, and everybody's hunting to eat and hanging out and washing themselves in a mud puddle or whatever. And then all of a sudden they detect this energy, and their senses heightened up. It's not that they become angry, it's that their antenna signals went up for them to be more on guard. Now, if they feel threatened, then yes, this other mode kicks in, but that's not what I'm talking about. That's our instinctual feeling of survival, of protection, right? Okay. Well, then that's what happens with emotional protection when it comes from an unconscious place. That's when the trigger happens, and we come from a place of anger. Or we come from a place of an underlying consciousness from emotional wounds of whatever that is, to react versus respond. Anger, we feel it. It's in our spectrum as being a human. It's one thing to feel it and then what to do with it, because anger in the body creates an acidic response, period. If the emotional body of the human is sick, then the dis-ease starts in the human body. It just does. You can study brain waves, and you can study all like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and learn about the little hairs on the brain, and how when a brain is not happy, those hairs, the antenna signals, stop moving. And that can cause Alzheimer's. So when those hairs start moving again because there's happiness, that's when the higher vibration. It goes deep into the emotional body of the vessel. And so when I think about anger, I think about the chemical response in the body. And yes, it can create a sense of fight or flight or survival to move, but it doesn't have to generate into the reactionary flow of anger and how we share that to the outside world. Because if you think about it, like if you think about peace, and you're like, oh, I'm peace, and there's all kinds of emotions that can come from peace. Happiness and joy, serenity, and anger. No, anger doesn't fit into peace. But when you think of anger, you can think of sadness, distress, and you can put peace and happiness in there because we know that anger can evolve into that. It's like this automatic thing that happens. We can move out of a peaceful state into an anger state, but it's like it doesn't fit. It doesn't go in there. And so it's like, how much do we want to attach to the programming of the outside world to even embody the saying that anger is a healthy emotion? Not me. And I'll tell you why. It's because I grew up in anger. I became an angry human being. I reacted in anger. I got triggered in anger to react in anger. And it totally feels like sickness in my body. When I receive someone's anger, it feels like I'm working on the receiving part of this, actually. I'm learning to block it more so I'm not embodying it, so it's not triggering my body, literally not triggering my body. So it's less triggering my response to my thoughts, which is causing less of a reaction in my body so that I can respond more from a more grounded place. And I'm much happier. Like especially these last couple of months, I have really transcended anger and the reactionary responses to things and people that I see and feel and hear. And I'm so much happier. Like, I don't have to respond. I don't have to react or respond to anger in any kind of way. And so it's like, I feel so much better in my life. Like, just the fact that I've transcended the idea, or I've transcended the agreement to anger. I don't have to agree to anger. It doesn't make me any healthier or any less healthy for that. I just feel clear in my own aura. Because it's like I like to look at things as energy and how it feels in my body versus even labeling it with emotions, with emotional words like anger. It's like, oh, I feel some energy. And I feel like the less I have to label things, less I have to agree to things by giving them words, the less attachment they have to my energetic field. I mean, it's a real thing. Vibration is a real thing. And so when speaking truth and someone else gets angry, that's okay. Allow them the space to get angry. It's okay because that's their programming and how their body is responding to the chemical reaction that they just heard. And I usually find that saying things with a smile and being in a calm vibration allows for someone who's angry to either come back full circle and be more grounded, or they'll get up and move out because their vibration can't handle it. Can't handle the happy. So it's pretty cool to think about it that way, that like it is true that happiness like kills anger. It does. It changes the vibration. And it doesn't mean that like I'm happy all the time. I still go through human things. It's just I realize that it's a place of a web. Doesn't necessarily mean it's my own anger or my own unhappiness. It just means I'm feeling it in the moment. There's no need to identify with any of it. I like being in the place of the void where there's stillness and that there's really great moments to be paused. Because it's like we're feeling so much all the time. Why do we constantly have to attach the human thought process to it? I love just being in a place of stillness and listening because there's so much conversation. There's so much to be had to pick up by just listening to what's going on in here versus thinking that it's all you, thinking that it's all me. My channel's completely shifted, and the way that I'm processing human thought, the way I'm processing human emotion in the human body is just completely changing. Every day I'm just opening up more and more to the vastness of our creative flow and how we really receive so much. All we have to do is get out of the way of ourselves and all is provided. All is provided. That's pretty neat. I've been very quiet lately, not doing too much online. I'm integrating so much energy right now. I see some of you guys going through it too. So much upgrading to the vessel is taking place lately. These last few weeks have just been so amazing. And the channel's clearing out so much more. And the light language is just so beautiful. And I got a message the other day that I'm going to be speaking light language soon. 18 different languages is what I heard. So we'll see how much of that is going to come true. I've been hearing a lot of light languages in my head. They just haven't come out of my mouth yet. So I know that there's programming happening in there, so I can start speaking it soon. And that's the other thing too about authenticity is that when we get out of the way of ourselves and we really get to listen to what's going on in here, we get to clear that out by listening. We connect to the divine and we start to receive and activate and to be able to channel this higher energy, these higher realms that are around us all the time. It's just we weren't connected to them because our vibration wasn't there yet. So the higher our like the more we shift the vibration of our body, which is the antenna system of receiving and sending, we literally start to pick up more in the multidimensional space. That's how all this is happening. We're being upgraded to receive. We're being upgraded to channel more, to connect with source. And our antenna system, our body, our nervous system is actually being upgraded into the ascension process that's taking place. And so some of us are channeling light language and are developing our energetic medicine of healing with our bodies and the things that we're doing with ourselves and other people. And the greatest way to get there is by being authentic and speaking truth. Self-love does it. It's not just about the red hearts. It's literally about the vibration that love gives off in the humanistic experience. It doesn't mean it's love in other realms. It just means it's love in this one. I love you to the moon, family. Keep speaking your truth. Keep being authentic, because there are a lot of people that love you and a lot of people that appreciate you. And I am one of them.